everyone in my Bulimia recovery group. I hope that you're all doing okay. If you're not doing okay, then just join the club of people around the world who are struggling at this time. Well, these are really not normal circumstances, and I know that even people who really have their shit together across a number of different areas in life are really struggling right now. So yeah, if you're having a hard time and you're going through some stuff, then don't judge yourself too much for that. Don't give too much weight to it. It's completely normal to be feeling uneasy, to be feeling anxiety, to be feeling depressed, lethargic, sad. Like even myself, it's partially why I haven't recorded a video in a long time or really been active in this group, is because I myself have really been struggling. I am relatively very fortunate. I am living in Thailand at the moment, and here we're not on lockdown. We have a curfew from 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. So it doesn't really affect me, to be honest. I'm in bed tucked up by 9 o'clock most nights anyway. But regardless, I have been finding things difficult. People here are seeming to be quite afraid. Lots of businesses, well, all of the non-essential businesses have shut down. I've been spending a lot of time by myself in my house, going kind of stir crazy, just wanting to escape some days and wanting to throw my laptop out of the window and occasionally myself out of the window, because I've been feeling lonely and wanting to just get out there and into the world and relieve myself from this kind of this boredom. And it's funny because despite saying that I've been feeling bored, I've actually been extremely busy. I've had a lot of work going on. I have my daily practices that I do, so I do things like meditation and yoga and qigong and tai chi every single day, which keeps me very busy. But despite that, yeah, I've been feeling this like aching, nagging sense of boredom deep inside of me, just from the mundanity of everyday life and the fact that every day just seems the fucking same. And yeah, kind of longing and yearning for something else to happen. A lot of my plans for this year, for 2020, have been cancelled. So, you know, like events that I was going to, festivals, travel plans, I've had to absolutely cancel everything and just sit back and see what happens. And, you know, I'm okay with that. I'm accepting of it. But at the same time, it's disappointing, it's sad. I was meant to be going back to the UK at the end of May to see my mum, which I was really looking forward to, and also to see my grandma, who's in a nursing home in the UK. But my flight has just been cancelled, and for a long time it's been looking like that wouldn't happen anyway. So yeah, I've had to cancel everything as well. And I'm spending the vast majority of my time on my own, not really seeing friends. I have one friend who I see, who I'm extremely grateful for. But other than that, really spending almost all of my days just alone in my house, going out food shopping every now and then. They've closed most of the beaches here where we are. There are no events happening, you can't go to restaurants, so it's not that dissimilar to what's going on in the rest of the world, to be honest. Although I do have the freedom and the ability to leave my house as many times a day as I'd like to without police stopping me and asking me where I'm going, there's nowhere to go and nothing to do because everything is closed. I really like to get out into nature and to hike and stuff, and go to waterfalls, but all of those are closed. So yeah, I'm really living a fairly similar life to the rest of the world in lockdown. I'm single, I don't have a partner. Like I said, I have one friend who lives reasonably close to me, who I do spend some time with, and I'm extremely grateful for that. Without him, I think I would have really found this period pretty unbearable, because despite being an introverted person, an only child, and really liking my own space and being comfortable with my own company, there does come a point where it kind of makes me want to scream. And what I really wanted to talk about today was inspired by a message that I was sent by someone in this group, and they asked me what was the the event that triggered my recovery. How did I start recovering from bulimia? And so yeah, I wanted to jump on and talk about that a bit today and share with you some of my views and my opinions and thoughts on this subject. So I was bulimic for 7 years, heavily so, binging and purging 15 to 20 times a day at my worst. So things are really bad. I would eat, vomit until my stomach was empty again, go start eating again, vomit until my stomach was empty, eat, vomit. That was literally my day, my every day, my every evening, my life. It was not fun. It was not a good way to live. And really, I started recovering when I hit absolute rock bottom. I had lost my job, pretty much been fired. I wasn't actually sacked, but I was forced to leave my job. This is something that is actually quite hard to me. Actually quite hard for me to talk about, because to this day it still haunts me. That was a really, really difficult time. I think the most anxious period of my life was about this 6 months when HR were investigating me and trying to get rid of me from the company that I was working for. Basically, I was heavily bulimic, had some physical health problems, which at the time I denied were at all linked to the fact that I spent my days with the head in the toilet. But since then I've realised that they were completely connected, because as soon as I stopped purging, the health problems went away. I was mentally ill, I was physically ill, I couldn't concentrate on my work, I made lots of mistakes. I was just a mess. So I pretty much lost my job. I was having lots of financial problems because, as I'm sure some of you know, bulimia is a really expensive habit to fund. When you are binging and purging 10, 15, 20 times a day, as I was at my peak, if that goes on for a sustained period of time, and if it's happening every day, that is going to take a big toll on your finances. So I had lots of credit cards that were maxed out. I had no money. I had a job, but I was absolutely not living within my means. I was spending way more than I was eating. Sorry, I was spending way more than I was earning. As I said, this stuff is actually quite difficult for me to talk about, and it's stuff that I don't talk about normally, so I'm a little bit nervous, so forgive me. I was spending way more than I was earning. So I was jobless, I was broke, my health was in absolute tatters, my relationship was going down the plug hole. I was never there. I was physically present, but I wasn't emotionally, spiritually, mentally present. My mind was always off, thinking about my next binge and how I could facilitate it and get away with it, and where I could puke, and if I could puke, and where I was going to get the food from. It was a huge factor in my relationship at the time. So money, job, relationship all went down the toilet. My health was suffering. My health wasn't suffering that badly, other than things like after a binge I would feel lightheaded and dizzy and unable to concentrate, and it would be difficult to work. Other than that, I didn't experience any real intense health problems. I've had a couple of people reach out to me recently saying that they're having awful problems with their teeth, they've had 5 crowns and they can't afford any more, and a bazillion fillings. I had problems with my teeth. I remember once I was on my lunch break from work and I was walking down the street and I was in the middle of a binge, as I did during every single lunch break. And I bit into something, I can't remember what it was, and out popped a chunk of my tooth. And I had to go and have another filling, and that happened several times. So I had a few cavities and a few holes in my teeth. But other than that, touch wood, I've been really lucky with my teeth, and I had no other serious health problems. I had an issue with my knee that very interestingly was triggered every time I binge and purge. So I would be feeling okay, I wouldn't have too much pain in my knee, And then I would binge and purge, and immediately after that my knee would be like so painful. It would seize up, it would feel tight, I would barely be able to walk. I found it incredibly difficult to sit on a chair for any period of time, which when you're working in an office for 8 hours a day is problematic. So that was one of the factors that tied into the fact that my work were trying to get rid of me, was because I physically found it very difficult to be present. I had to take lots of time off sick. So back to the topic in point. When you are recovering from bulimia, I found it really helpful to have something to focus on. So for me, the main driving force behind my recovery and it can be anything. Like I think as long as it's something that you really want to fix, it's okay. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a relationship with a partner that is messed up because of your bulimia. It could be a parent who you really want to get better for. You're just seeing them suffer because they're watching you suffer. It could be financial reasons. It could be health reasons. It could be your teeth. As long as you have something to focus on and have that as your motivator and your goal, I think that's really important and really necessary. Because if you don't have your reason to recover, then when things get really difficult and really challenging and you're going through all the physical side effects and withdrawal from purging, because that does happen, it's going to be hard to keep motivated and stay on that straight and narrow path. And on the occasions when you slip up, because that is going to happen, it's very easy to then fall back into this binge and purge cycle. But if you have that one thing that is keeping you going, that you really want to fix through the medium of recovery, it's going to help keep you going. And for me, it was my puffy face. So if you look back at pictures of me when I was really hardcore bulimic, when I was my absolute worst, my body was very thin. Like, now I'm naturally slim, I'm not fat, I'm not thin, I'm just somewhere comfortably in the middle. But when I was really ill, I was very thin. But it didn't, the shape of my body and the size of my body, like my little toothpick thighs, didn't correlate with the size of my face. So my cheeks were so swollen, I looked like a hamster the whole time, and that's just due to things like stomach acid, triggering inflammation in your cheeks, at least I believe. I tried to research the hell out of this to find ways. This is one thing that you will probably relate to, is when you're deep in an eating disorder and you're having these unpleasant side effects, you will go crazy into the research of how to omit these side effects by doing anything possible other than quitting purging. So I heard that apple cider vinegar was good for reducing the puffiness of the face and taking the swelling down. So I was boshing shots of apple cider vinegar like there was no tomorrow, like it was going out of fashion. I was doing massaging on my glands to try and bring the swelling down. I was going to all these extreme lengths. I was even taking ibuprofen, which is real bad. I was taking ibuprofen several times a day, every day, just to combat some of the inflammation and swelling in my face, which is a fucking terrible idea, because ibuprofen is really not good for you. It's not good for your stomach, especially if you're taking it on an empty stomach. If you're bulimic and as bad as I was, then you've probably got an empty stomach all of the time because you don't keep any food down. So yeah, taking ibuprofen to combat my puffy cheeks was just a terrible idea. But I was willing to do anything and everything apart from stop purging, until I realized that the only way that I was going to get my face to be more slender, which is what I wanted, and get the swelling under my neck, I think they're called the parotid glands, lymph nodes, I don't know. I'm not so hot on my anatomy. So I realized eventually that the only way to get this swelling down was going to be to quit purging. And that really was the driving force behind my recovery from bulimia. It kept me going. I had something to focus on. I really loathed and despised the appearance of my face. And that was what drove me forward. I wanted to have a slim face. And, you know, that's okay. Perhaps it's not the most noble of reasons for recovery. Perhaps there are reasons that are more noble, like health reasons, or because you don't want to keep putting your family through hell. But for me, I was self-obsessed, had body dysmorphia, hated the way that I looked, and I just wanted to have a nice looking face, and that was the thing that really kept me going. And how did I start my recovery? This is another question that I've been asked. I started my recovery just by trying to reduce the amount that I was binging and purging. So I was, like I've said in this video a couple of times, I was really intensely bulimic. I was binging and purging 15 to 20 times a day. My days consisted of very little other than binging and purging. And so at first, like, going cold turkey and just quitting was like not an option. Bulimia was a coping mechanism for me. It helped me deal with things. And at this point, I just wasn't ready to let go of it completely. And that's okay. And that's the case for many people. We have these coping mechanisms for a reason, because they help us cope with life, right? And that's something important to be considered. Like, yes, they are damaging and they have all of these horrible effects on your health, on your finances, on your family, your relationships, your mental state, but they exist for a reason. And you have to be at a place in your life where you are ready to completely let go of your coping mechanism. And then you suddenly don't have a coping mechanism, you don't have a safety net, and you can be going through lots of emotional upheaval. You no longer have that thing that is helping you to like block out negative emotions and deal with anxiety and deal with sadness and trauma and depression. You no longer have that coping mechanism, and so these things like anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever you're going through, whatever you developed your eating disorder in a response to, those things can be fucking overwhelming. And so it's actually okay if you're not in a place where you're ready to completely let go. And if that's the case, I would really suggest at first, when you are starting out to recover from bulimia, like if you are like I was, binging and purging 15 to 20 times a day, no job, no money, relationship in tatters, family are super worried about you, very few friendships, and your face is swollen up like a hamster, what you can do is you can just aim to take baby steps towards recovery. So my first aim, like the way that I went about it at the beginning, was I just tried to binge and purge less. I tried to occasionally go one day, just one day without binging and purging, and I think it took months to get me to that point. I remember I was in a relationship at the time, and about a year into my decision to start recovering, so a year into my journey of recovering from bulimia, I had this wedding on the horizon. I'd never been to a wedding before. Well, I had, but when I was 4 years old, so it doesn't really count. But I hadn't been to a wedding in 20-something years, and it was the wedding of my boyfriend at the time, his sister. And I really wanted to be looking and feeling healthy for this wedding. I didn't want to have a giant swollen face. I just wanted to be me. I didn't want to be having to sneak off to the toilet and puke several times during the middle of the day. I just wanted to be me without bulimia on my shoulder for this wedding, just for one freaking day. And in the week running up to that wedding, I didn't purge at all. And that was the first time in years. I think I was 26 at this time, and I started throwing up when I was 20. So yeah, that was the first time in 6 years that I'd gone a week without puking. And that was a massive, massive, massive milestone. But that was like a year into my journey with recovery. So what I'm trying to say here is that just because you haven't decided to quit cold turkey and stop purging completely doesn't mean that you're not recovering. Like, it really is, especially with bulimia, it's a case of baby steps. So maybe you're purging 3 times a day. Maybe try and reduce it to once a day or even twice and maintain that for a month or so. You know, just gradually reduce things. Gradually get yourself to a space where you are less and less dependent on this coping mechanism, and eventually you're going to be ready to let it go. But don't rush things. Like I said, we have coping mechanisms for a reason, because they help us to cope. Life is not easy. Life is full of challenges, and depending on what kind of family and circumstances you're born into, those challenges can be more or less difficult to deal with and more or less overwhelming. And for lots of us who've developed severe eating disorders, we are living in difficult circumstances, and our eating disorders are helping us to manage and helping us to get through life, despite the fact that they are nevertheless very destructive. They are providing us with something. We don't develop these things, these addictions, for no reason. So yeah, what I'm saying is gently, softly, get yourself to a space where you are ready and willing to let go. But it's not going to happen overnight. You don't need to quit completely and just go cold turkey. I personally don't know anyone who's managed to do that. Most of the people I know in my personal life, in my real life, who say they've suffered from bulimia, have gone through a similar process to the one I went through, whereby they gradually let go of things and slowly decrease the amount that they were purging, and then they'd go a month without doing it, and then they'd do it every day for a week because something happened and they relapsed. There was a change in their circumstances, they had to move back home, whatever. And I myself have been through this process. I didn't purge for I think about 6 months, and I was like, woohoo, yay, I'm recovered. Like, I suddenly realized, like, holy shit, it's been 6 months since I last binged and purged. Oh my god, I think I'm recovered. And then I went back home to the UK. I was living abroad at the time, and I was back in my old environment, surrounded by triggers that used to be there. I think I just attributed being in that place to having that habit, and I relapsed, and I was puking up several times a day for like a week, and this is after having not purged for 6 months. So it's okay. Recovery is not a straight line like this. It's generally a massive hill like this, and then you go down, and then you go up and down and up and down and up, and you might continue like that for several years. But you know what? Several years into the process, when you are binging and purging like 3 or 4 times a year compared to 15 to 20 times a day, that is a huge difference. That is mountains and mountains and mountains of progress. Your whole life is going to be different. Your mental state will have completely transformed and shifted. Just because you have a coping mechanism which occasionally you fall back into, it doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that you are still fucked up. So yeah, what I'm trying to say here is slowly, softly, just try and take gentle baby steps towards recovery. Don't push yourself. We have these coping mechanisms for a reason, and just keep going. Focus on one thing, or maybe it's a number of things, but for me it was just the appearance of my face. Focus on one thing that you really want to get better from, or stop, or bring about through recovering, and have that driving you forward. Have that as like the rocket up your ass that is really propelling you into this journey of recovery. It's going to be difficult. There are physical side effects, mental side effects. Yeah, it's not easy. I'm constantly telling the women that I'm supporting, men occasionally, but mostly women, I'm constantly telling the women I'm supporting and talking to that it's most likely the hardest thing that you will ever do. I know for me, recovering from bulimia and quitting my binge purge addiction was absolutely, categorically, hands down, the most difficult process of my entire life. But that installed in me the knowledge and the belief that if I can do that, I can do absolutely everything. I am freaking badass. I recovered from bulimia. I can do anything. So yeah, that's it for my little video today. Maybe I will put this on YouTube. I was originally planning to just make this a short video for my group. If you haven't joined my group, yo, check it out. It's going to be in the comments box. Yeah, I'm going to share this on YouTube. I've had people reached out to me recently and asked me to make some more YouTube videos, but I've been sort of dealing with my own stuff, feeling inadequate and like, oh, I'm not ready and I'm not inspired enough, but fuck it. Everything happens for a reason, and I sat down today to make this video for a reason, so I'll probably stick it on YouTube, on my channel. So if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, I have a Facebook group. Check it out. The link will be in the description box. I also have a website. I have some blog articles. Watch my other videos. I have made it my life's mission, really, to raise awareness about bulimia, get people talking. I'm sharing on camera difficult truths. Things that I find it hard to talk about, things that I've never talked about with anyone because there's a lot of shame surrounding them, because these are things that are common to most bulimia sufferers. But there is so much shame surrounding the subject that people aren't willing to talk about it, and I truly and wholeheartedly and passionately believe that that is keeping so many people sick. And I just want to generate a conversation and help to relieve people of their shame about this awful life-destroying disorder. I was anorexic for several years before I became bulimic, and anorexia is difficult to deal with, and I was depressed and miserable, but like it was a walk in the park compared to the depths of the suffering and the misery and the self-hatred and just that deep unhappiness and difficulty of living with bulimia. Like, there's a lot out there in terms of pro eating disorder recovery material related to anorexia, because anorexia is kind of almost glamorized in the media. It's synonymous with ideas of self-control and discipline and skinny models collapsing on the catwalk, whereas bulimia, on the other hand, and bulimics are synonymous with a lack of self-control, massive binges. It's messy, it's disgusting, it's dirty, ramming your fingers down your throat and vomiting up your food until you're vomiting up stomach acid and bile and blood. Like, it's disgusting, it's gross, people don't want to talk about it. And I really strongly believe that if there is more of a dialogue and more openness on the internet and in the media about bulimia, then it's going to help so many more people to recover. I know that the number one thing that was holding me back from recovery was that I was too afraid to admit to anyone that I had a problem. I knew I had a problem. Like, there was no shadow of a doubt in my mind that I was extremely unwell and in need of help, and that things were really bad. Like, when you're binging and purging to 15 to 20 times a day, you're not in denial, like, how bad things are. But I was so deeply ashamed of everything I was doing and who I had become that I was afraid to reach out. I was afraid of being judged, and I really believe that if we can just dispel some of this shame around the subject of bulimia, then millions of people across the world are going to find it a lot more easy to get better and to quit. That's all I have to say for today. I hope wherever you are in the world, you are doing all right. If you're not, don't worry about it because lots of people are suffering at the moment. Everything is temporary. This too shall pass. Whatever is going on for you, just try and keep some sort of routine in your life if you can. That's my honest advice. It's what's helping me during this period of time. So try and keep some sort of routine. Be kind to yourself. If you're relapsing and you're watching this because you're relapsing and you don't know what to do about it, don't worry. It's okay. It's natural. It's normal. There is nothing wrong with you. You are just responding in the only way in which you know how to a very difficult, challenging, unprecedented situation that the whole of humanity is going through at the moment. So If you need some support, need someone to talk to, reach out to me, join my group, send me a message on Facebook or on YouTube or on email or my Instagram. All my links are down below, so check them out. Yeah, you're not alone. Millions and millions of people throughout the world are struggling with bulimia, but no one's talking about it, and so it can feel like you're alone, but you're definitely not. Anyway, mwah. Have a beautiful day. Take care. Bye bye.